Welcome back, everyone, to the second round of the Oklahoma City V-Day tournament being held here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. In the second round, I am playing against Mario Chandra, 1896 USCF, like 1800-ish V-Day. He won the round 1 game against an 1800, so I knew off to a pretty good start, and to never take any game lightly. I started off with the move E4. I've been playing this recently as of late. I only knew that he played the Sicillian, so I'm like, okay, how do I get my opponent out of any specific preparation? C5, knight c3, bishop b5. This is a line I've been playing for a long time. It's a very, very good surprise. Future opponents, I may or may not play this in the future. I also do like open Sicilians quite a bit. Just depends on how I feel. So, e6, take the knight. And yeah, the best move is knight d4, overwhelmingly. E6 is a move. I have a file on this, but takes d3 and f4. And this is how I decided to play the position. I took space on the king side. Knight f3 castles is the plan. Now, I knew the best plan for my opponent was to somehow try and force c4 through. Because my opponent can force c4 through, then they start to get that advantage there, right? They can get rid of the double pawns. That's basically the idea. So my opponent went bishop a6, very logical. And here I played a move that I actually didn't really... So this position here is one that I think is in one of my files, but I hadn't reviewed it in a long time. So I was sitting at the board trying to think, what the heck do I do? Because I'm like, okay, knight f3, but d. Like, I can't take with d. I mean, he's going to trade the queens if I take it with knight. Okay, these pawns are kind of weak, but he's going to get rid of them, and then I have no advantage. In fact, I'm probably worse because the bishop pair. Computer says 0.00. So what do I know? But I played e5, and apparently the computer doesn't like this, because you get the knight here. I thought getting the knight here was not the best idea because I can play moves like g4 and stuff. But the computer says black is fine there. But my opponent played a really strange move, f6. And I was very perplexed by this move because I'm like, you're blocking the square that your knight wants to go to. And like, the alarm bells start to go off at some point. f6 is not a good move. I just developed normally knight f3. I'm like, okay, when your opponent does something weird, develop. Obviously, takes is never something my opponent wants to do. I'm going to castle and have the open f-file forever, and they're never going to be able to castle. He's never going to be able to castle once my knight moves. So, he decided to play bishop to e7. I castled, knight h6. And then here's when I'm like thinking, okay, what do I do? Obviously, if I just develop, he's going to castle and get his optimal setup. Obviously, I do not want to allow that, so you have to think in chess. And I decided that when the knight leaves, it can no longer take back the pawns. I'm like, why not? I just take. And if g takes, then you obviously open up the king. I'll play moves like knight h4 and queen h5 and coming. Like castles, the king is too open, and this pawn's weakness, I feel like, have to be better. So my player took with the bishop. And here I was debating between two moves, knight e5 and knight g5. The problem with knight e5 that I decided on knight g5, I played knight g5 in the game, is my opponent can just castle, and this pawn is not an issue. In fact, if I take it, this is really bad. Queen b6, knight e5, c4, and I'm borderline just dead lost. Like, takes, rook takes f1, taking with the king, knight f5. This is just, I'm losing my d-pawn, and I am up a pawn temporarily, but also the obstacle of the bishops. Like, I'm never going to win. This bishop's tied on this pawn forever, and this is no good. So I decided, in the end, to put the knight on g5. Because, okay, this is less easily ignored by just short castles, because knight takes e6. And suddenly the exchange is falling. Now, I think black still has some compensation for it. It's not like I'm winning or anything, but I definitely have the advantage. And my opponent here plays bishop d4. Okay, only one move. That makes sense. King h1. And then queen f6. And I saw this idea from a distance. I actually saw it back here. Same idea with queen e7. Can you guys spot what the problem is with queen e7 or the way my opponent did it in the game? Queen f6. There's a problem with the way that he did it. You can pause the video and try and figure it out while I take a sip of my water. The correct move is knight takes e6, utilizing the fact that the king is still in the center. Notice I did not allow him to castle, and this also does not allow him to castle. Blocking both the squares and also making this a threat. My opponent's best move is actually knight f5. Hoping that I fall for knight c7, king d7 takes. Oops, and I lose. So, there's still tricks in the position, and I did see this from a distance. In knight f5, I was going to play moves like queen e1, or take this bishop. Actually, probably just going to take this bishop. Doesn't play knight f4 and just play this position. Like, I'm up a pawn, it can't be bad. I'm going to bring knight c5. Sure, obstacle the bishops, but I probably have good chances. But my opponent here, yeah, didn't see that idea from a distance, and then here I found a really nice move. So I can take this bishop, yes, but after CD, knight a4, something about queen d6 I just didn't really like. I didn't really like something about this. So instead, I decided to play the move f5, which is the top engine move. And the idea is you gotta take, right? If you don't take, I'm gonna take your knight, and then I'm gonna take the bishop, and then knight versus bishop. I mean, the thing is, if I leave opposite color bishops, he has some chances to draw. Knight versus bishop down upon him, there's like basically 0 chance. So I played f5. You have to take. I took the bishop, CD, and then I played knight f4, getting the knight out of the way of the attack, bringing the knight to c5. And now I knew there were 2 logical moves only, bringing the rook to f8, bringing this rook to f8. If you bring this rook to f8, you lose on the spot, because knight c5, king c8, and then here I play with bishop f4 or something. And the rook does not guard the king anymore. And I saw this, like bishop b7, I bring the queen, and there's going to be too many threats. He did something that I thought was better. Rook f8, the computer agrees. This is the best move. Okay, I played knight c5 check. Now here, I was heavily expecting king c8, at which point I would just bring the bishop out, and bishop comes back, and it would be a game. But my idea was queen g4 and stuff. Or sorry, not a game, but I mean, it's still tricky for me to win. But I thought, okay, I'm better here for sure. And my knight can never be attacked, so I have this b4. Or, I mean, obviously not here, because the knight hangs, but in other lines. But he played king d8. And king d8 is something I did not anticipate. I'm like, wait, king d8? Oh, wait, king d8? Now I don't have... Yeah, I thought king d8. And then I realized there is a winning tactic. Feel free to pause, try and find it. It's not too hard, but yeah, it requires some good intuition. If you've come back, that means you probably found it. And if you haven't, don't feel bad. The move is bishop to g5. Pinning the queen to the king. And it also stops any knight g3 ideas. Because now knight g3 no longer works because the queen is pinned. I mean, this wouldn't work anyway, but the queen is just pinned. So, it doesn't quite work. And this is pinned. So my opponent has to take. Then I play knight e6. It's funny, actually, if I take the bishop, it's just equal. But why would you ever do that? Check. And king d7, take the queen. Knight e3, you just take the rook. And if he takes the queen, obviously I take this rook. I'm going to be up 2 rooks and winning every single piece that he owns. So he takes queen e2. And here in this position, he resigned. So overall, pretty clean game in my opinion. The opening was a little bit shaky. I do have to review this e6 file, because I always thought just leaving the knight is not very good after takes, but apparently there are some lines that can get quite scary. Apparently here, b3 I guess is the idea to develop. Okay, so I will definitely remember that for next time. But thank you so much for watching this recap, and I will see y'all for round number 3. It is in 2.5 hours. I made this recap. It'll come out while I'm playing round 3, actually, based on the way I have it scheduled, because I don't want to put the recaps too close together, because of timing and stuff. But yeah, see y'all for round 3. Take care. See y'all next time.